In this problem, we're given a quadratic function and we're asked to answer 6 questions. The first question is to identify the coefficients of a, b, and c. To do this, you must know that a, b, and c are the coefficients on each term of the quadratic. For example, in our case, a is 1 because a is defined to be the coefficient on the x squared term. Since there's no number written here, it's assumed to be 1. So a is 1. B is defined to be the number in front of the term that has just an x, and since there's no term in the function with x, you have to think of the equation like this. You might not need to write it, but you at least have to think of it as being x squared plus 0x minus 2. Because 0 times anything is 0, I can slip that in and not change the value of this expression. So our b is 0. Type that in. C is defined to be the constant at the end, and our constant at the end is -2. So C is always the constant at the end of the equation, or it could be in the middle if the equation is not in descending order. So in our case, C was -2. The next question is to determine if the parabola opens up or down and state why. This is a very simple question. If a is positive, which in our case it is, our a value was +1. It doesn't have to be a 1. As long as a is positive, when you graph it, you're going to get a U-shaped curve that opens up. If a were a negative number, then it would open down, like so. But in our case, a was not negative, so we will not get an upside down U. We're going to get a regular U-shaped graph, and it opens up. One way to say that a is positive is to say that its value is bigger than 0. So I'm going to say that I'm going to go over here, click on this field here, that our graph will open up, and the reason is because a is bigger than 0. The only other case is if a was negative, in which case the answer would be that it opens down because a is less than 0, which is this choice right here. But for our case, a was positive. The next question is to write the vertical intercept as an ordered pair. This is also easy to do, because as we know, the vertical intercept is what you get out when you plug in 0. So if you looked at our equation and we were to replace x with 0, what would we get out as an output? So I'm looking for a point on the graph whose x value is 0 and simply want to know what the output is there. So if we plugged 0 into our equation, we'd have 0 squared subtract 2. 0 squared is 0, and if you subtract 2, you get -2. So it turns out that our vertical intercept is 0, -2, and you have to write it as an ordered pair. So left parenthesis, shift 9, 0, -2, and then right parenthesis. Fourth, we're supposed to graph the function on our calculator. So turn your calculator on, press y equals, which is right here. We're going to type in x squared. The easiest way to get x in the calculator is to hit this button right here. Hit the square key right here. Make sure you hit subtract 2, not -2. So this is the subtract key, so subtract 2. This is going to show up on our standard window. So I'm just going to make sure that we're in a standard window by not hitting graph, but hitting zoom 6. If you hit zoom and select option 6, it says zoom standard. So I'm just going to hit 6. The standard window gives you a window that your x values go from -10 to 10, and your y values go -10 to 10. And as promised, it shows up on my standard window. The reason I'm doing a video for this problem, even though I did one just like it for the problem just before this, is that this is a special case where the vertical intercept, where the graph crosses the y-axis, happens to also be the vertex. This happens whenever your b value is 0. So I graph the function on my calculator. I'm on to step 5. I'm supposed to draw the graph neatly below, plotting the highest or lowest point and one other point on the graph. So in the previous video, we had the vertex being different than the vertical intercept, and we had our 2 points. Can't have that happen in this case because our vertical intercept and the y-intercept are the same. So to show you an easy way on the calculator to get a second point, although it would not be hard to do it by hand, you could plug in any x value into the equation you'd like and square it, subtract 2, and get a y value, and that would be your second point. But to show you how to get another point on the calculator, you can hit the trace key, and as soon as you get these values here, you can type in anything you want. So for example, suppose I typed in, say, 3 and hit enter. It's just going to do the arithmetic for you because 3 squared is 9 and 9 minus 2 is 7. It's showing me that if you plug in 3, you get out 7. So I'm just going to use 3, 7 as a second point on the graph because the directions Say that I have to draw it using the highest or lowest point, that's my vertex, 0, -2, and one other point. So in case you didn't watch the other video, the way to find the vertex is to use the formula -b over 2a. So let me write that down real quick. The x value of the vertex is -b over 2a. I made the comment the vertex turns out to be the same as the y-intercept, and this is why. That if you were to replace b with 0, remember b was the coefficient on x, and we said that that was 0, you get the opposite of 0, which is still 0, and it doesn't matter what 2a comes out to be because 0 divided by anything is 0. So it turns out the x-coordinate of our vertex is 0, and you get the y-coordinate by plugging 0 in, which we already did when we found the vertical intercept. So turns out that our vertex, the lowest point on the graph, is the same as the vertical intercept. So what I'm going to do is, when I go to graph this, I now have 2 points. It says plot the highest or lowest point and then one other point. So make sure that you have the icon selected for a parabola. I'm going to plot 0, -2 by pointing at that point, 0, -2, clicking and holding mouse button down. Our parabola opened up, and to make sure we have the right parabola, we need to plot 3, 7, which is right there. Now, be careful, we never did step 6. Step 6 says, finally, place a point on the graph at the vertical intercept. Well, our vertical intercept was right here. You do this plotting of a point by clicking on this icon to plot a point. Simply point and click at the point 0, -2. That's basically how you do the problem. Go back and make sure you did all 6 questions before you submit it.